What's happening, guys? So, man, I feel as if I'm having a deja vu right now. I really do. I mean, last week I reviewed that shitty ass Pet Cemetery remake, and what I said at the start of that review, I was like, so here we have another pointless remake that nobody asked for. Well, here we go again. A week later, I'm back from a trip to the cinema, and again, we have another shitty ass remake that not a single person asked for. I'm going to be reviewing this movie, this movie Hellboy, man, that came out just today. Actually, it was his release day here. I just came back from the cinema, man. What a piece of shit this movie was, man. Wow, this movie was. Oh, I don't even know how to put it into words. I don't even know where to begin explaining how bad this movie was. This movie was atrocious. Where do I even start? Where do I even begin to break this one down? So I'm going to imagine, and I haven't seen any reviews of this movie yet. I don't even know what it got on Rotten Tomatoes or whatnot. I don't know how highly this was rated. I don't know what the popular consensus on this movie is. Like I said, I've just seen it today. I have no idea, but I'm willing to bet that there's going to be some people who come out and they're going to be defending this movie by saying that, oh, well, it's R-rated, and that automatically makes it more entertaining, and yeah, it's an R-rated movie, and it's over-the-top parody fun and shit like that, people are going to say. Guys, the only reason that this movie is R-rated, right, the only reason for that is one, well, there's two reasons. One, the fact that it has the word fuck probably about 400 times. I mean, the amount of times characters in this movie have to repeat the word fuck in the same sentence. I mean, it reminded me of, it was like South Park or something. You know that episode of South Park where he's like, "Hey, this, it doesn't hurt anybody. Fuck, fuckity, fuck, fuck, fuck." You know that type of shit. That's what this movie reminded me of. It was like that, just pointless. Needless profanity over and over. And the only other reason that it's R-rated is because this movie is jam-packed, filled with terrible, horrible CGI blood. I mean, did we really need this shit? Did we really need to see a CGI demon rip a guy's face off? Did we really need to see like people getting crushed and getting their heads bitten off? And it's all computerized. There's no practical effects at all. Like every bit of blood in this movie and every piece of gore, it's all computer generated. It's all CGI. So it's really just it's really just window dressing. It's really nothing to write home about. I mean, there's certainly no realistic, like practical gore in the movie. So I don't know why anybody would be defending this movie, but I'm gonna be, I'm willing to bet there's gonna be people out there defending it. But man, this movie was a piece of shit. There was literally nothing that I can say about this movie to recommend it to anybody. First of all, the acting was fucking atrocious. I mean, at least in the original Hellboy movie, and I know that movie had pretty much mixed reviews. A lot of people liked it, a lot of people didn't like it. The one directed by Guillermo del Toro, at least that movie had decent acting. Ron Perlman suited the character. He had the voice, he had the size, he had the look, and he had the sort of the charisma and the cockiness that went along with that character. This guy, this David Harbour or whatever the fuck his name is, I don't know the actor, but he was like a simpleton. He was like a big fucking simpleton going, I'm Hellboy. Like, that's how he talks, like a big fucking simpleton. Like, the scenes of this movie where he was literally like lying on a table and he's like, so what do we do next? And the guy's telling him what we do next. He's like, and then what? And then what? And then what? And then he's like, He literally does that in the movie on a few occasions. Guys, I am not exaggerating. That is what that character does in this movie. He does it time and time again. And the profanity. This character will just, something will happen. Oh fuck. Oh shit. Oh fuck. Oh shit. Like it reminded me of Deadpool or some shit, where they're trying to, they want to, they put an R rating on the movie. And then just to emphasize the fact that the movie's R-rated, they have to force in as many F words as they can on purpose, just to hammer the point home. Yes, this movie is R-rated. We fucking get it. We get it. Your movie's R-rated. Okay, we're not immature. We don't find that shit funny. Okay, this movie has burp jokes. It has fart jokes. It has all the immature shit that we've come to expect from modern day movies. And the funny thing is, while this movie was trying to be so funny and was trying to have all this forced humor and was trying to make you laugh, was trying to make it a comedy, and was trying to be satirical at times, I saw this movie in a packed theatre. There were hundreds of people in the theatre. I think there was like 2 or 3 seats that weren't booked, so the place was packed. I think one, maybe two people laughed, and those were just, you know, they look the type, if you know what I'm talking about. They look like immature simpletons to me, man. Like the whole people were just sitting there. I looked around and not one person, because I was sitting right at the front, and I looked behind me. Not one person had a smile on their face. People were watching this movie as if like, what is this shit? This shit is so boring. The movie is too long. I don't know how long it was. It might have been about 2 hours, but it felt like about 4 hours, man. This movie is way longer than it needed to be. The action sequences were terrible, absolutely atrocious. There was one fight scene in the movie, which was passable. It wasn't great, it was just passable. And it was a scene where Hellboy takes on these giants, like three big CGI giants, and it looked okay. You know, the action in that scene was fine. It was just serviceable, but most of them were just choppy. Had your shaky cam, your CGI. There's scenes in the movie where I didn't even have a clue what was going on. Like there's a scene where there's like a raid or something, and people are shooting bullets, and I just have no idea. Like it was like a flashback sequence, but like I had no idea what was going on. I couldn't see anybody, couldn't see shit. You can't see shit in this movie. The action is terrible. I mean, there's like a scene at the start where he's like confronting this vampire who's like an old friend of his, and they're in a wrestling ring. And again, like they're like throwing each other about, and it's just so choppy. You can barely make out what's going on, and it makes no sense. And there's forced humor. Yeah, this movie's terrible. Absolute garbage. As for the acting performances, you know, there's some actors in this movie I recognise. This fucking movie has actors from flipping EastEnders. You got people from BBC, terrible BBC propaganda shows like EastEnders in this movie. That's how fucking terrible it was, man. You know, there's like the old woman, you know, Gary Oldman's sister, who's in EastEnders. You know, she's in a chippy, and she's like, "I need to see your ID, love." Like trying to be funny, you know, just, you know, because obviously he doesn't need ID. They know who he is. It's fucking Hellboy. You know, you can't pretend. You couldn't pretend to be him. He's just so distinctive, and she's still asking him for ID. Like, again, stupid shit like that in this movie. That's just, you know, just trying to be funny, and it just wasn't funny at all, man. They had like, he gets in hunted. He gets like invited to this hunting lodge, and it's all these guys that are like Illuminati or some shit. Ask him to come in and help him hunt these giants, and I'm like, oh, so these are the bad guys. Like immediately, without even revealing anything, I immediately knew right away. Oh, so these are the bad guys. They're gonna try and set him up. Duh. Like were they expecting me to be like surprised by that? Of course not, man. Ugh, this movie was fucking atrocious. The scene in the trailer, you know, where he's in like fucking hell on earth or some shit, and he's got the big sword, that was just a flashback scene. Yeah, real horrible, demonic looking piece of shit, this movie. All the CGI, just, ugh, I don't even know what else to say. This movie's head wasting. The soundtrack of this movie is terrible. It gave me a headache. There's so much like out of place, like rock music, which, don't get me wrong, rock music's cool, but putting it in places where it really shouldn't be, and there's so many loud noises, and just the voices of the characters in this movie was head wasting. Even the guy who plays, his name escapes me, the guy who plays the father, his adopted father in this movie, and he does like a narration at the start where he's like, these are the dark ages, and then he starts swearing just to say they fucking should be called the dark ages, just to say, yes, this movie's R-rated if you didn't know. Again, it reminds me of flipping Deadpool, where it's like every 2 minutes they have to look at the camera and say, hey, this movie's R-rated. This movie has CGI blood and swear words. Fucking ridiculous, man. Seriously. I know I swear a lot in videos, and I really shouldn't, but, you know, I do it because that's me. You know, I get that off my mother. You know, she swears a lot, or she used to when I was a kid, and I sort of picked it up. I don't do it just for the sake of it. I don't do it to try and make a point. You know, it's an instinctual thing with me. But with these movies, they do it to make a point, to just hammer the point home that it's R-rated. And this movie, some of it looked like a video game, some of it looked like just cheap, shitty mid-90s CGI. The costume is pretty much the same, like the Hellboy, like makeup and whatnot. The costume looks exactly the same as it did in the Guillermo del Toro movie, except in the Guillermo del Toro movie, I'd say it looked a little bit more realistic. Oh, and did I mention this movie has sequel bait, and it has an after credit scene, so it's like a Marvel movie. So I guess they're gonna try and make a universe out of this shit. Who's gonna want to see a sequel to this? What could they possibly do with a sequel to this movie? I mean, this movie's just like one big long trailer, like to something bigger, and that's the vibe I got from it, man. Was that they're trying to make a new franchise, and ugh, it was terrible. This movie, I almost don't even want to talk anymore about it. It was that shit. They had sort of a love interest in the movie. It's this girl. She's like this mixed race chick who is like a psychic. She talks to the dead, but like it's so weird the way it does it. Like she talks to the dead, and then they sort of inhabit her body, and then they come out her mouth, and it's like a big long like CGI ghost that comes out of her mouth, and she's like, ah, and they come out and start talking like normal, and it just looks ridiculous, man. Like, oh, this movie's terrible. Thomas Haden Church is in this movie. Remember the guy that played Sandman in Spider-Man 3? He's in the movie, and he shows up like twice. He's in like a flashback sequence, and then he's in like the after credit scene or some shit. And well, yeah, was it the after credit scene? I think it was. And yeah, he shows up, and he's only there. I don't know why he's there. I don't know why he's in the movie. Didn't need to be there at all. Ridiculous. Yeah, Hellboy in the movie, the character himself is a fucking retard. He's got books, and he's like, why would I read books, and I could be doing this and that. Like, just a fucking big simpleton spastic of a character. Just a big retard. Like, real irritating character, horrible, and just cannot root for the guy. The villain in the movie is Mila Jovovich, who Mila Jovovich, obviously most well known for her being in those terrible, shitty ass Resident Evil movies. And I don't hate Mila Jovovich as an actor. She can act a bit. Yeah, she's good in action sequences and whatnot, but she doesn't have any action sequences in this movie. She basically walks around with her tits out, raising her hand, and then when she raises her hand, people just die, or she's like telekinetic or some shit. Yeah, just complete wasted. I don't know why they'd have somebody like her in a movie and then give her nothing to do, nothing of any substance anyway. And for most of the movie, she's not even really in it, because she's like sort of chopped to pieces. And the other bad guy is this pig. He's like a human pig or some shit, and he walks around. He's a scouser, and he's constantly swearing. He's like, "You bastard, you fucking bastard, man, you fucking..." Like honestly, the whole movie, there's like a fight scene in this movie where he must have says, "You fucking bastard." He must have said it about 10 times in that one fight scene. The fight scene between him and Hellboy. He must have said "you fucking bastard" about 10 times. Like they repeat the profanity so much in the movie. There's a scene where the pig guy, like, he's in this abbey, and he's got this guy who doesn't speak because he's like sworn to silence, but he needs to open this box, and the only way that he can open the box is if this guy speaks. He rips the guy's jaw off, puts it in his own mouth, and all of a sudden that gives him this guy's voice so he can speak and open the box. I'm like, that is so that is stupid. That makes no sense. That's one of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen in a movie. Yeah, what can I say about this movie? What can I say that's positive? There's nothing positive in this movie. Again, it has the type of humour that the really terrible South Park episodes have when it's all swearing. They're like, "Hey, you're holding up the goddamn left line!" Like that type of shit. It's all shouting and, "Oh, fuck, oh, shit, ah!" It's that type of shit. It's just real immature shit. It's a real immature movie. And it's just, again, it's satanic, and it's just disgusting to look at. And this movie's crap. This movie gets a 1 out of 10. One of the worst movies I have ever seen. I tell you one thing right now, and I'm serious here, I'm not exaggerating. If this movie isn't the worst movie of 2019, and we're only in April, mind, if this movie isn't the worst movie of 2019, then this is going to be a dreadful year for movies. This is going to be a terrible year for movies, man. I mean, we've already had some absolute pieces of shit, absolute stinkers this year, man. We had Captain Marvel, we had that piece of shit Pet Sematary remake. Those were the worst by far this year. There's been a lot of other movies that just were average, not very good. This movie was the worst. This is definitely the worst of the year so far. And if it gets worse than this, oh my, this is a bad year for movies. Yeah, this movie gets a 1 out of 10. I don't want to see a sequel. If this movie gets a sequel, that's disgraceful. So many better movies have not gotten sequels. And in fact, if I remember rightly, when the original Hellboy, the one directed by Guillermo del Toro, when that one got a sequel, the sequel didn't do very well. If I remember right, I think the sequel got panned. I haven't really looked up the ratings, but I'm just going off memory here. I remember at the time it didn't do that well, and I didn't like the sequel either. So yeah, I don't want to see another one. I mean, fuck Hellboy, man. The character's not that interesting. What more can you do with this character? Who was asking for this shit? And I said the same thing in my Pet Sematary review. Who was asking for a remake of Pet Sematary? The first movie wasn't even that good. Like, why did anybody want to see it again? The same shot-for-shot remake. Why did anyone? I mean, the first Hellboy wasn't that well received. Again, some people like it, some people don't. You know, it was a hit and miss type of movie. But it wasn't the type of movie that you want to see done again. Like, why? And then especially done again, but done much worse. This movie's crap. I've already spent enough time talking about this garbage, absolute garbage movie, man. 1 out of 10. Worst movie of the year by far. Potentially the worst movie of the whole entire year, depending on what comes out later on in the year, man. If it gets worse than this, then that's going to be really depressing. Movie's absolute garbage. 1 out of 10. Let me know what you guys think about this garbage. And thanks for watching. God bless. And if you like my movie reviews, check out my playlist. Blah, blah, blah. Thanks for watching.